2014 flag salute. Mr. O'Brien.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Amendola.
Here.
Ms. Amendola. Here. Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Ms. Post. Here. Ms. Whitesell is absent. Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mayor Bloom.
Here.
Mr. Adu.
Here.
Engineer Winsterman.
Here.
Andrew Callen.
Here.
And Director Ricci.
Yes, here.
I'd like to say that we, council, met at an executive session preceding this meeting and no action was taken. Excuse me? We discussed legal matters and personnel issues. I'll entertain a motion of the approval of the bill list dated February 24th, 2014, and addendum.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the bill list? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola.
Yes.
Ms. Amendola.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
I abstain because I haven't had time to read the entire thing. I just got it today. I haven't done them. I wrote my, I really haven't had a chance to read it.
Ms. Post.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes. Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2014 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes?
Yes, if I may. The council meetings minutes for February 10th do not designate a switch in who, like, because I started the meeting and then at a point I handed the gavel back over to the president and I don't recognize in there where it actually happens. And I was just thinking, for clarity, it should state, I know it says that Vice President Post called to order the agenda meeting, and then, but it doesn't say where Joe took over.
President Hayes entered the meeting at 7:25 p.m. and took the chair. In that first paragraph.
Hold on one second.
Yes, so do Vice President Post called to order, and then a little bit further down, 4 lines, President Hayes entered the meeting at 7:25 and took the chair.
Okay, but there was business that was done prior to him taking the chair at his entrance at 7:25. Because I know that we did the bill list,
See, but he was present for the bill list.
but he didn't take the, at what point did he take over for, because we were discussing, the matter of the minutes when I was sitting there. So the bill list and the approval of the minutes, and then at that point, he took over, correct?
I think that is correct.
Because you walked
He signed the bill list, though, so he's on there as voting for the bill list because he had actually signed it. It wasn't during the roll call that he had signed it.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I conducted the business of the bill list and the approval of minutes, and then I clearly made a statement at this time, I'm handing the gavel over to the president to complete the meeting. Do you remember when I said that?
You weren't here for
So,
the vote on the minutes?
should the meeting,
I thought you were still discussing the minutes when you seconded.
No,
That's
because-
right. We were discussing that when Joe walked in, because he stood over there,
Yeah.
and you finished that portion, and
Right.
then Mr. Hayes took over.
correct,
So he was here for the vote on the minutes.
Right. I voted on the minutes, as I recall, and I guess I perceived I voted on the bill list, if you will, because I signed all the checks.
right, because you
But-
signed the checks.
Right, but it's not, I guess it's not clear, I mean,
Or in
precisely
roll
when,
call.
you know, in 25 minutes past the hour, what were we discussing and what did the vice president do, you know, prior to that? So we
Right.
can make that a bit more clear, but,
I just feel like that statement should be, at this moment, the chair was handed back over to the president. I know that you say that he arrived at 7:25, but we had done business prior to that. I just feel like it should state for clarity to the residents that I ran this portion and he ran the rest of it.
would it be satisfactory to just mention in the bill list approval that, you know, that you ran the motion for the bill list, that was approved, and then, you know, I entered a meeting during the discussion of the minutes and was present for the vote for the minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, whichever, I just think it should be stated, that, you know, therefore, if anybody has any questions in the future, and they're pulling up the minutes, they can see that clearly.
Can we take a vote on the approval of the minutes with that change? Okay, so we'll document that change. With that change documented, is there any other discussion before we vote on the acceptance of those minutes?
How, can we somehow approve the meetings from the minutes from the meeting? Do we have to wait until the next council meeting to do that? Can we have it done the day after, since it's still fresh in our,
Oh, that can be done that day after.
2 days,
After we're working on bills and
could it
everything.
be done 2 days, could it be done sooner, so we?
I was still working on this Saturday to get them done.
Actually,
That was an extra long meeting.
It's not only a timing issue for her, you have to act publicly to approve it. So you
Mhm.
don't have a public meeting 2 days after a meeting to be able to vote on it.
Mm-hmm, yeah, that was my,
Yeah, you can't. You have to do it at a public meeting, and the next public meeting's a month later.
Well, 2 weeks later.
2 weeks.
2 weeks later.
We need every
For
2
those,
weeks,
yeah, but
Any more discussion before we take a vote on the minutes? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola?
yes.
Ms. Amendola?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
yes,
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes. Motion carries. Next item, citizens' comments. We have 2 people signed up for citizen comments. Please step up to the microphone, state your name and where you live, and please keep your comments to at or near 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name's Mike Sear, I'm a Grafton resident, have been for most of my life. Here this evening to make a small commentary on the issue of the Duncan matter, now that the Supreme Court has denied Grafton Borough's appeal. And I'm terribly troubled at the fact that Grafton Borough, and I'll make it a point to note that the people that are on this council are not involved in that. But 14 years ago, they took a very disingenuous position, the borough itself, and you inherited that, when they should have and did settle this matter. It was legally settled. The court found that Grafton broke that agreement, and as a result of it, the taxpayers in the borough of Grafton are going to suffer because they have to pay a couple $1 million for property that at that time, Grafton Borough only needed $15,000 to get. It would have gotten double the property, a bunch of free work, a state-of-the-art stormwater management system, active and passive recreation. It was a wonderful idea. It was well thought out, well planned. And because of people in the borough who belong to an organization that's now defunct for the most part, all of the taxpayers are going to suffer. And now we have a landlocked piece of property that's costing the neighborhood of $2 million. And I'm just wondering, what are you going to do with this landlocked piece of property? How are you going to get access to it? Is someone else in this borough going to be subject to a taking? Is it going to be more tax dollars? Is there going to be another attorney that comes in every 2 years, gets a new audience to lie to drag people through the courts? You know, you've got a guy that's now 80-some years old, whose wife is gone, who missed a great deal of his retirement because of the disingenuous activities of the members of the Borough Council, and in the words of Judge Ledbetter, the Superior Court, the intentional legal missteps and legal wrangling of Grafton Borough. That's a shame, and I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed that, you know, at this late date, we have to make commentary on something that was resolved 14 years ago. And I want my comments to be made a part of the record, and I thank you for the time, and I thank you for your service also.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another citizen signed up, Doug Johnson.
Doug Johnson, 25 South Emily Street. I just had two questions regarding the snow ordinance, ordinance number 1610, that was a long fought out, not really fought out, but a long arduous process when we did pass it originally. You're proposing in the ordinance to take away the 4 inches, which is a measurable amount as declared by the National Weather Service, and making it a snow event. What exactly is considered a snow event? How is it measured? How is it going to be enforced? 1/2 inches of snow is a snow event. You're going to have a lot of residents out here again, as we did before. You're basically saying, anytime that they're calling for snow, you can't park on this side of the street, whereas, we had it at 2 inches, and the residents complained because they said that's not a serious snow amount, since the borough doesn't generally start plowing until they get close to that amount. And the second item, you can address that during your discussion, I just want to bring it up as items. Second event is, well, I think the e-collect and the turnkey product is a very good product. You got a motion on here to enter into an agreement with them for business privilege and mercantile tax. Back at the August 26th meeting, the Borough Council agreed to enter into a beta testing with them. That hasn't even been provided yet. The results of that beta testing haven't even been provided. The last meeting when Mr. Schuster was here discussing it, he doesn't even have anything set up. Why are you entering into another agreement when the first one hasn't been fulfilled? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how you've done it in the past.
Do you do a motion?
Motion usually for all the reports, to accept the reports.
Yes. Do a motion.
All of them, you don't do individually.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to take receipt of the written reports, which include January 2014, which include the treasurer's report from December 2013 and January 2014, the financial report, Act 511, and trash collection reports, property tax collection report, the police report, the ordinance officer's report, REM's report, and the engineer's report.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on those reports? Hearing no discussion, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amendola?
Yes.
Ms. Amendola?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes. At this time, we'll listen to the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not much today, basically working on the quantities for the Shake Hall repair contracts, both the excavation sewer repair contract and the lining sewer repair contract. So both of those are underway. Those contracts will probably be let in the next month or so, and then it takes a couple months after that to actually begin the work. So we're probably looking at summer construction season like we have in the past for both of those contracts. And the other item, which I think is covered under the manager's report, is the paving program. Just another encouragement to urge us to get this out sooner than later. It's still early enough that we could get in on early bids and better prices from contractors as they fill their workload schedule. So the longer we take, the more chance we have on paying a little bit higher prices. So just recommending that if we can move this along, we'll accelerate the development of the contract documents and get it out for bid. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll take receipt now of the manager's report.
I believe everyone has a copy of the manager's report. We'll highlight on some of the significant items. As far as road salt, we're not any different than any other municipality in the Northeast and Midwest. We currently have about 20 tons in stock. and we're still awaiting orders from February 4th. Telecommunications, cleaning service, and the social media service is on the action agenda for voting. Vacant blight property committee, people have been identified, that's also on the business agenda for action. The infrastructure projects, as Rick had mentioned, we need to cut the rug this evening of what road or roads you wish to do for 2014. We had an extensive discussion on that at the previous meeting. Mercantile business privilege tax analysis is also on the business agenda for action. Animal control services, as you know, we did submit an application to the South Hills Animal Control Service that has been denied and rejected by that group. They're not taking any new municipalities. After having learned that, this Thursday, I do have a meeting with Councilwoman Teresa Kale Smith and Councilman Laval, Pittsburgh City Council, for the sole purpose of discussing if the city animal control can provide service to Crafton. That's an initial meeting, but certainly I hope to get a positive result, or at least some discussion to continue that, or at least what that cost will be to continue those discussions. I'm working with Superintendent Pfeiffer of the Carlton Area School District to arrange a joint meeting among this body and the school directors. Hopefully, maybe before a council meeting, have a dinner meeting to discuss issues of common interest among both government bodies relative to perhaps maybe recreation usage of school facilities, certainly delinquent taxes for both bodies to take a look at and to pursue some type of strategy that will dovetail into our blighted property. So I've got a positive response, at least from the superintendent, subject to the board of directors agreeing to meet with you. And I've asked that we do that before the deliberation of the school district tax in July. Contract review, we're still going through a Comcast franchise agreement. We've had several reviews with our solicitor as well as the Comcast attorneys. We're pretty close to some language. Public Works agreement we just started working on, and hopefully we'll come to some agreement before the summertime. That's all I have on my agenda right now, Mr. President.
Any discussion on the manager's report? All right. The President's report, I do not have anything specific other than what's listed here regarding the road paving program. And if you've looked for a meeting, it is a motion that's going to be up for discussion. It's actually our last motion at the end of a long business agenda, so I think we should just hold our discussion until we get to that one. And we'll discuss it and then take action following that discussion. But what I suggest now is that we move into the business agenda. As I said, it's fairly good.
Mr. President, 2 years ago, I was afforded an opportunity at council meetings to give the mayor's report. Somehow, I was eliminated from that. It would come at the time of the engineer's report, the mayor's report, the president's report. Somehow I got eliminated from that 2 years ago. And I would request council that I be put back on in case I have information to report that I don't have to interrupt during other conversations, that I can make a report to council on what I would have. And I do have some items tonight that I would like to discuss, if you'll bear with me for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
At the last council meeting, we had a young man approach us about a situation at Tormington West Street with the crosswalk and the lack of signage down there for the protection of the school children. Subsequent to that meeting, I've made inquiries and requests through the chief of police. I've talked to Marissa Mendoza-Bergem about this situation down there. I've had the chief review that intersection. I attempted to have signs ready to go for when council acted upon getting this situation remedied. The chief and I decided that, when this would come about, that we would make the recommendations to move the crosswalk, the painted crosswalk from the westerly side of McCormick Avenue to the easterly side, which puts that directly under the streetlight for anybody that would be out there crossing in the evening, that intersection would be lit. We checked with the Farmington School Board, the school district, about the amount of children that are picked up at that intersection, both high school and junior high school and elementary school. I have a list of those children, or the amount of students that are picked up at that particular intersection, and we thought that maybe getting back to a one-side pickup, east or west, depending on the time they would work, but it won't, because children live both on the, let's say, the odd side of Student Street and the even side of Student Street, so regardless of what time or what to pick up, or whether they were picking up or dropping off, the children would still be crossing that highway. So we checked into that. And my question to council at this point is that now we're 2 weeks past this now, and I'd like to know, are we gonna move on this? Are we gonna get the signage in place? Are we gonna wait for the first possible day to have good weather to get down and properly post that with the signs and get those crosswalks repainted so that this young man's fears could be allayed? That's item number one that I have, and I'm requesting council, like I said, we're 2 weeks into this, and everything seems to get held up and delayed, and here we are. So I'm not gonna rest on this one. Another item, we had discussed, believe it was late last year, that I had a request from the Nativity Church at Alice Street about handicap parking for their Sunday services. They're requesting 2 spots on Alice Street to be used for their handicapped, parishioners or people that go to church for this Sunday service. My suggestion was, as far as the handicap signs going up, that they could add the tag sign on there, Sunday's only 9 to 11. So in other words, the street would be open for parking. No action on that, and that was last year. Let's see, my next item was, I had a question about the potholes on West Steuben Street prior to Foster Avenue. State highway, I don't know what coming up, going towards St. Philip's, okay?
Yeah.
There's that, along that, if anybody drives up there, that edge of that road, about, I'd say 18 to 20 inches out from the curb is all just devastated with potholes. And I watch people come up and they get to that area and they go, out they go, which is a normal reaction for, pothole-ridden areas of the country. I mean, we're not immune to this. But I'm wondering if that's a state problem, since the state's, that's the highway, it's a state highway, or are we under contract to do minor maintenance? Because I can't tell you when the last time that highway was milled and paved. And I was working back then, so it's been at least 10 years. So that's a question. There was a question raised last year about no parking on Taylor Street, on Home Avenue at Taylor Street for fire department safety. The fire truck comes down Taylor Street, makes a left on Home Avenue, we need to give them the space that that fire truck would turn. People park right to the corner, and trust me, I've seen it, and I was involved in it on the Santa Claus detail. Cars are parked right up to the corner. That was last year. Still no action on that. Whoever this body should get together, and these items that are brought up can't just keep going to the back burner. Okay, these are items that affect public safety, and public safety in ways that people don't consider. That if a fire truck can't get to the corner, around the corner, because the cars are parking there and not prohibited from parking there, that creates an issue if somebody's in a home. You got children crossing the street. We can't let that go back burner. Here we are, 2 weeks, and I said I would bring it up again. So I'm asking council what their priorities are. What do they want to do with these? I know there's a long business agenda, but I think that, these items can't be written back because of the business agenda. So please, I'm imploring you guys, as the 7 members of council, to take action on this stuff and to make it right. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Actually, before you started, which I apologize when I started, but I didn't know that you had a slot, so I apologize if I had omitted you. But before you had started, I was actually going to ask if I could ask the manager what was the follow-up on the McCormick situation, the McCormick and Steuben. So I too was wondering what we were gonna do about that. And to let you know that I did ask Director Beachy about the potholes on Steuben, and that's PennDOT, right?
I believe they did repairs today.
What- On the side, like near the,
Tasty Freeze.
Tasty Freeze?
CVS.
They did fill, it looks like they did fill a little bit.
Yeah, because that was horrendous, yes.
I wouldn't call it extraordinary, but they did
No.
make a first effort to that.
Okay, because we had talked about that before and how, like, what the road situation was in Curb and whose job was that. But then down by the Sharp Edge intersection, was that Pennsylvania Water?
Yes.
Because that was really deep.
Yeah,
Okay, that was really, really dangerous. We should have had something out there prior to filling that in. There was no cone or anything prior to that. If we could, I don't know if that's something you can mention to them. If they're gonna dig a random hole in an intersection, could you please put something there to flag us? Awesome. Okay,
well, I mean, keep in mind that Pennsylvania American Water does not work for the borough.
right.
So,
Can we make a request to them? Like, we
Oh,
would
yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate some kind of flag that
They
there's
have
a,
to notify us when they
an
are gonna
abyss.
do work?
typically they don't directly notify us. What happens is we get notifications from PA1 call, that they are gonna be doing work. And that call, the first PA1 call came Friday for that. The second one, and typically what happens is we go in and accept the work and, sort of have the parameters for doing that work. Next up, what they do and what they did in this case was to send an emergency PA1 call, which means they can just go do the work. So that's what happened again in this case. That's been an ongoing situation that both Bob and I have been dealing with.
Okay, so, Doctor, thank you very much. So back to the McCormick, what is the status on that?
Where we are on that, we do have signs that you place out on Steuben at the crosswalk that says that traffic has to stop if anyone's in the crosswalk. Worked that out with Catherine Powers at PennDOT, P-O-W-E-R-S. Also, Mike Lucas, who is in charge of the type of painting that you put in the crosswalks. PennDOT has a new standard within the past year. It has to be a higher intensity, reflective type of paint. He's getting me the specs on that. You cannot put the signs out there until such time as the crosswalk is painted. And that has got to be done in what he calls a piano style, as opposed to just 2 lines across. So that's where we are on that. No signage is needed on the sidewalk or the grass strip. So we do have the signs in place, waiting for the paint specs and the weather to cooperate.
So when you say the signs in place, they're not there at the intersection, but we have them ready to go as
Once-
soon as we get it painted by PennDOT.
Correct. And PennDOT needs to be notified in advance of our intention to do that.
So we have to paint or they paint?
We can paint.
But
just
we have to
let
wait until it's 50 degrees.
We have to wait until we get their paint specifications, number one.
Oh.
Number two, the design, and obviously the weather to cooperate with the paint, yes.
Okay.
So my question is, so we're not gonna put signs up?
You can't put the signs up unless the crosswalk is there
No,
first.
period. I mean, you said you have those little targets that they put on the road?
Yes.
I'm talking a pole and a sign. We have those ready to go?
No, according to Ms. Powers, are not needed.
Well, we think we need them.
I think
Well, I'm just telling you, why don't,
We'd like to get those probably.
that will be our cost, so, but.
Yeah, we could do
But
that.
we don't have those ordered now.
But the little ones that you're talking about are the ones that just freestanding little things that says, don't, if someone's in the crosswalk, you gotta stop.
That's what PennDOT was requiring.
On the road?
Yes,
Wow,
But they won't put it on the road until the lines are painted.
correct.
okay.
There's nothing that we can do until the paint is ready? I mean, something.
I asked the question, can we put it out? She said, not until such time as the crosswalk is actually 20 Street.
So can we put 4 cones? Something?
That's a state road. I mean, unfortunately, if it were our road, I guess we could do what we want, but it's a state road.
I just-
What about
I don't know.
McCormick?
As a mom, that's not really.
Right, what about that part on McCormick? I mean, McCormick is ours, right? The McCormick, that's ours. So can't we do something on our, at least our side?